Good evening and welcome to the May 11th, 2026 regular meeting of the Goffstown Select Board. Would you all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to see the minutes from the April 27th meeting?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mark, second by Allison. Any questions, comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it. We have some announcements. We have an announcement and three petitions to read, so we'll take a couple of minutes. I apologize. So the first one is a reminder: the parking restriction dates for the Glen Lake boat launch and Waterfront area ordinance are in effect beginning May 15th between the hours of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Parking along Elm Street in the area of the boat launch is restricted to Goffstown residents only who display a resident transfer station sticker on their vehicle. Stickers for residents can be obtained at the transfer station during normal business hours, Tuesday through Saturday, 7:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. The designated trailer parking only area will remain open to anyone with a trailer attached to their vehicle without restriction year-round. There is no trespassing from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. at the Glen Lake Boat Launch waterfront area. Alcoholic beverages are prohibited at the Glen Lake waterfront, along with any glass bottles. Glen Lake is a carry-in and carry-out facility. The above restrictions are posted at the Glen Lake Board Launch waterfront area for convenience. Now, the first proclamation reads as follows. Town of Goffstown. Whereas the United States Congress and the President have designated the date to honor the service and sacrifice of those law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty while protecting our communities and safeguarding our democracy. Whereas there are more than 750,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Goffstown Police Department. Whereas since the first recorded death in 1776, there are currently 27,347 known law enforcement officers in the United States who have made the ultimate sacrifice and have been killed in the line of duty. And whereas the names of these dedicated public employees are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., and whereas 363 new names of fallen heroes will be added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring, including 148 officers killed in 2025, and whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the 38th annual Candlelight Vigil on the evening of May 13th, 2026, part of the National Police Week. Whereas May 15th is designated as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of all fallen officers and their families, the U.S. flag should be flown at half-mast. Now, therefore, we, the Select Board of the Town of Goffstown, State of New Hampshire, do hereby proclaim the week of May 15th, 2026 through May 21st, 2026 as National Law Enforcement Memorial Week. Throughout the Town of Goffstown, we encourage all citizens to join us in recognizing and expressing their sincere gratitude to the service of all enforcement officers in the community of Goffstown and in communities across the nation for their steadfast dedication and service. Given under our hands and seal this 27th day of April in the year of our Lord, 2026, in the town of Goffstown, New Hampshire, and it's signed by all of the Goffstown Select Board. Okay, we've got two more to go in any particular order. Go ahead, Allison.
Okay. Proclamation of the Town of Goffstown. Whereas the American Public Works Association has designated the third full week of May as the 66th National Public Works Week, honoring the public works professionals whose focus on infrastructure, facilities, and essential services is vital to a sustainable, resilient community and to the public health, quality of life, and well-being of the people of Goffstown. And whereas these critical infrastructures, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, including engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation systems, water supply, water treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other essential structures. And whereas it is in the public interest for citizens, civic leaders, and youth of Goffstown to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing understanding of the importance of public works and the programs that support our community. And now, therefore, we, the Select Board of the Town of Goffstown, County of Hillsborough, State of New Hampshire, do hereby proclaim to all citizens of our community the week of May 17th, 2026 through May 23rd, 2026 as National Public Works Week. Throughout the town of Goffstown, we encourage all citizens to recognize and pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to acknowledge the substantial contributions they make to protect public health, ensure safety, and enhance the quality of life for all. Given under our hands and seal this 11th day of May in the year of our Lord 2026 in the town of Goffstown, New Hampshire, signed by the Select Board.
Thank you. Mark?
Yep. Proclamation, Town of Goffstown. Whereas emergency medical services are a vital public service, and whereas the members of the Goffstown Fire and Emergency Medical Services team stands ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to high-quality emergency care, medical care, dramatically improves the survival rate and recovery of individuals experiencing sudden illnesses or injury. And whereas emergency medical services have grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventive medicine, followed by care and access to the telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical services system is composed of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, medical emergency dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital and emergency nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and out-of-state hospital medical care provide. And whereas members of the emergency medical services team, members care, or volunteers devote thousands of hours to specialized training and continued education to strengthen their life-saving services. And whereas it is both fitting and proper to recognize the value of the accomplishments of the emergency medical services provided. And whereas now, therefore, we, the Select Board of the Town of Goffstown, County, Hillsborough, State of New Hampshire, do hereby proclaim the week of May 17th to the 23rd, 2026 as Emergency Medical Services Week. We care for everyone. We encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities in honor of the EMS professions and essential services it provides. Given under the hand or seal this 11th day of May in the year of our Lord 2026 by the Select Board.
Okay, congratulations to all those organizations, well-deserved honor. Okay, is anyone here for public comment? Okay, hearing no one, seeing no one, we'll close the public comment section of the meeting, and I would invite the Main Street people to come on up and
come for the fun.
And if you would, before you start speaking, just state your names for the record, please.
I'm Tina Lawton. I'm on the board of directors for Goffstown Main Street. I'm in Manchester at 169 Ash Street.
And my name is Sherry Reinfer, and I'm the vice president of the board of directors, and I am at 27 Shirley Park here in Goffstown.
Great, thanks. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, you want to tell us what you want to tell us?
Okay, so I just want to confirm, first of all, that y'all have seen the presentation, the read-ahead. And so everything that I have here in front of me is exactly what was sent to you vis-a-vis an email. My intention is not to go over this line by line out of respect of everybody's time, but my intention is also to try to be as thorough as possible and bring everything that we're asking for from the Main Street program on behalf of the events that we do all at one time, so that we don't have to continue to go back and forth and spend your time hearing our requests, which is why this is extensive. I gave Tina a heart attack when I gave her the presentation, but again, my intention is just to try to be as thorough as possible and lay the foundation, at least for some of these requests, okay? And so I guess what we'll do is we'll just start at the top, and we know that there are some issues regarding the permits, and I don't know if you want to address those at the beginning of it, or if you want to go through the presentation and then address them all at the end. So however you would like to
I think
do
we should go
that.
through the presentation and then have a discussion about it at the end.
Okay, so go through the whole thing. Okay, and then you see at the very end, I did provide that the worksheet recap so that we can just go down and check the boxes to answer any questions. Okay, so the permit requests, we did submit all of the permits for all of these events: Old Home Days, Uncommon Art, Pumpkin Regatta, Friday Night Under the Lights, New Year's Eve celebration, and those were all submitted in February. We did just get back the Old Home Days for June 6th, which is Saturday. We did get the permit request, we did get the permit back. But we neglected accidentally to not put in the Friday night portion, and so that permit has been submitted. Friday night portion of it is just an outdoor movie on the Common, popcorn, cupcakes to celebrate the 250th birthday of America. And so we are not going to get the permit for the movie until we get the permit from the town. It's just on the Common. It's a big outdoor screen. People will bring their own lawn chairs. We do have 5 cupcake companies that are will be donating cupcakes, so there is no charge to anybody in Goffstown to come and enjoy. It's just a family-friendly event. The Lions Club will be donating 75 bags of popcorn. And so throughout the day, our crew will make arrangements to go and set up the Common to have the outdoor speaker. So the only thing that we require from the town is permission to do it, number one, and the electricity where the outlets are, which is where the stage would normally go. That's where the outdoor movie screen goes, and it's truly an outdoor movie screen. We have the sound system and all of that. So the event itself would be 7 to 10, and that would be for the cupcake portion. We have some interactive things for guests to do before the movie starts. And I don't want to say the name of the movie, but it is family friendly, and we will have purchased the rights to actually do it. So that's the only permit that we just put in, and that's for the Friday night, okay? The other ones we understand, as far as the permits go, there are questions about the road closures that we've requested between Church Street and the corner of where our Main Street office is, right around that corner. And so those are, that I believe is, what is that question and holding up the permits, because these events are events that we've done year after year, but we have not requested for those particular events to have that small portion of the road closed off. But the reason that we've done that is because there is a safety issue, and we have people constantly ask us, particularly for our night events, Friday Night Under the Lights, our New Year's Eve celebration, that there is a safety issue. I mean, I've been reading social media without putting anything out there. I'm just reading what's people's after our events, love the events, but the biggest question is about safety. And particularly, I very specifically monitor what happens around that corner when people are coming from Dunbarton or from, around that corner past Sully's into the town. There is a stoplight, but they don't get it until they're actually at the crosswalk. And by that point, there's people crossing the crosswalk. And on social, somebody referred to it as like dodgeball, it's dodge car, or trying to make sure that their kids don't step off the curb because cars just go by there very, very fast. We experienced that on both the Friday Night Under the Lights as well as our New Year's Eve celebration. And so we just, our biggest concern, and I know the town shares in that concern, is just safety. because these events draw, and the intention is to bring our community together, to celebrate Goffstown, to celebrate the downtown, bring economic development to that area, and safety is a big concern. So that, I know, is one of the issues with the permits.
So is there any suggestions on how to handle the safety for the nighttime, especially the nighttime issues on that corner?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Or are you gonna save all that for?
No, we can talk about that right now. Yeah.
we just got the funding, it's 15K to do some nighttime lighting, some enhancing of crosswalks, and then some signage to help people understand what's coming up. And I spoke with Adam a little bit about it, and got what we can and cannot do based on New Hampshire laws, and so we just received the funding. There's some things we have to go through before we get into too many details, but that's something, at least a little something, especially for the nighttime events, to enhance that we have a lot of pedestrian crossing.
So there's a lot of people that either use Goffstown as their thoroughfare to get into the Dunbarton area, or wherever it is that they're going up High Street or going back down 114, that don't even know that we're having events. And so what we're looking to do is hopefully bring signage at both ends, slow down event happening with some type of a light, whatever. And Tina was able to apply for a grant, so as she said, we did just get approval for grant funding for this type of a thing. There would, of course, be a separate presentation once we have all of the full details for that in particular, but that, to answer the question, would be part of a solution for the road closures, particularly at these evening events.
Okay, so right now it's signs on each end and you're working on it, right?
Basically, because we just got the funding. And so we're obviously open to whatever suggestions the town might have to help with the safety of our community.
Would you have a police officer there?
We can, we could.
So on page 3 of your packet, you do have recommendations from department heads. One is if there are going to be road closures, it is recommended that the roads be closed with hardened barriers, whether it's concrete barriers or large vehicles. That was done for the Pumpkin Regatta last year. That does have an impact on department operations. Most of the time it's done outside of normal operating hours and would require either staff being held over or brought back to do such a thing.
Because you have to close it at night typically.
Yeah, for their night events or their weekend events, yeah.
Right, and right now we do it for the Pumpkin Regatta. It's a 2-day, it's obviously, you guys all know, it's the 2-day celebration, thousands and thousands of people come. And my question is, why, I understand for the big events, and I understand, nationwide, there's, been horrible things that have happened at these really large events. But the concrete barriers are a new thing as of last year. And so, according to the page 3 that we also got, we would be looking at one at Church Street and one right at the end of the Commons. And I'm curious what changed that requires that.
I could share, just with talking with the police chief, he just was concerned about somebody, potentially driving through, so the barriers were to stop that from happening. And so that's just something that he really wanted to add last year. We partnered with them, and we had volunteers with equipment to help move them out of the way for the end of the day so traffic could resume. So it was, and the police department did a lot of work to get them physically to the village, but we helped to try and move them around.
So we raise the money. Goffstown Main Street Program pays the police, pays all of that detail for the Pumpkin Regatta. We raise the funds to do that. We haven't we didn't put forth warrant articles for the town to come through and contribute to this type of a thing. So everything that we're doing is on the Main Street Program. But keeping in mind that it's not just about Main Street Program. If we're able to secure this, it's anybody that has, it's all of the vendors that are coming, it's our entire community, it's everybody is safe, not just the people that are coming to these events. And if we're able to procure streetlights or whatever it is that we're able to do, it's not just for our events. I know there are other organizations within Goffstown that also do events that, they share the same type of thing. We've got the Historical Society, who is doing a piece during the Main Street program. So again, it's not just us, and it's not just for Main Street, it's for our community at
Sure,
large.
totally get that.
Yep.
I mean, I love everything you guys do, like, don't get me wrong, but I think a couple things are in play here. Like, we're in a default budget,
Yep.
right, so we're having to be cognizant of that. It's more about what are the needs, not necessarily the wants. We would love to do everything that you have, I'm sure. I definitely agree that Main Street has paid for all of the police details, for sure. Like, that's been in existence for a while now.
Right.
What about the fire and rescue, the ambulances and the requirement?
Oh, we pay for all of that.
We haven't been charged for that.
Well,
haven't-
our
you
bill
haven't been charged.
our last bill was $8,600 for the pumpkin regatta.
That was just strictly
For-
police.
That was strictly police.
Okay.
That wasn't in fire, that wasn't rescue. Like, those all things are, again, gonna be overtime, and it's been a topic of discussion within our town. So
Right.
it's something we have to take into consideration.
Right.
So I also think closing the road, since we brought it up, I was hoping we'd get through the whole
I
thing
know.
before we did. But closing the roads also impacts businesses and people getting to where they need to go as well. Typically, like, you don't close roads in a town like several times a year. Typically, it's like a couple times a year that you typically do that. But we're asking for like several just for one program, not even like other programs, which I'm not even sure. Are we closing the roads for anybody else, Derek?
We haven't received any requests.
Okay. So I think that also needs to take into consideration. So for me, I would love to hear what Jim was asking, which is what is the proposed plan that you guys are working with the grant that you have already to understand, like, how's that going to be helpful or not helpful versus us making a decision to close the road.
Right.
And I think that, along with that, like, if there is a requirement to put barriers, because then I think my understanding, it'd probably be good to hear from the police chief specifically, but based upon what we have in our notes, I think it's based upon risk level, right? Especially with some of the things that we've seen in New Orleans and other places where people are just getting crazy.
100%. We totally agree with that.
And I think we're probably well over, I think it's heading to 5,000 people in a weekend or whatever for the pumpkin regatta at least.
Well over that.
Well over that.
Yeah.
Like, it's a major risk at that point in time.
Oh, and we 100% supported that, 100%. And so I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just wondering, saying what happened that would require it for our smaller events. That's all.
There are several different ways that you can block the street or reroute the traffic, but like the big cities do, they bring their DPW trucks over and they put them there and they block the road. Much easier than taking these concrete barriers that are 6 feet long, that weigh a significant amount of weight, and they're just very labor intense. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Ask Adam, can
Yeah,
we use?
we had a volunteer that was willing to do that.
Yeah.
To provide the trucks, to
it-
provide the blockage.
I agree with Josh. I mean, I love everything you guys do. I'd love, it would hurt to not do any of that stuff. But I'm thinking at, the movie on the Common, you potentially have to block off 4 different streets.
Well, we weren't requesting to block any streets for the movie on the Common. The people come to the Common and they're in the Common. There is no crossing the streets for anything. So that request was not to close the streets for that.
Oh, okay.
They're requesting it for the uncommon art, correct? That's
It was
one of
for
them?
Yeah, and quite honestly, we've never requested to close the roads for the smaller events.
Yep.
Right? We're just listening to the community ask, is it possible to have the roads closed for safety reasons? That's it.
Yeah.
And so we're just responding to the asks that we've had.
So the 3 that you're asking for, though, in addition to the pumpkin regatta, are uncommon art on the Common.
Yep.
Which is the one-day event, which is October,
In
or August 1st.
Uh-huh.
You're also looking for Friday Night Under the Lights, which would be the 4th of December.
Right.
And then you're also looking for the New Year's Eve celebration, which is on the 31st of December.
Correct.
No other ones, just those three?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And if I
Besides
could
the
just
Pumpkin Regatta.
prioritize them for which are at risk, Friday Night and Lights is the worst, because it's Friday night, it's traffic from, it starts at 5 o'clock, there's traffic going to and, from work. New Year's Eve was remarkably quiet, although we still did have a concern, and Uncommon Art is in the middle of the summer, so that's not as, but Friday Night and Light is one of the most dangerous ones, I think.
Because there are hundreds and hundreds of people, and you guys have been there, and everybody's surrounded out by the common, and we have events going all throughout town, so people are from one end to the other, from Ace Hardware to MAO over the bridge, coming back, and everybody's just walking everywhere. So that one is the hardest in the evening, so. And again, that's never been one of our asks before, but we're asking this year just to, and if we can't, we can't. But we will say too, everybody's in a budget crunch, we're in the same predicament. And so we cannot, beyond the grant that we just got and any procurement that we're able to do with that money to do something on a more permanent basis for any event that's in town, we would not be able to fund it like we fund the Pumpkin Regatta. That make sense?
Understood.
Okay.
Derek, do we have any understanding as to how much it costs us in overtime for fire or for DPW right now for Pumpkin Regatta at all?
So when we did the Pumpkin Regatta, DPW worked with Goffstown Main Street to get the concrete barriers in staging positions, and then there was volunteers with a tractor on the Saturday and Sunday that put it in place, and then the police had a detail there in place to stop traffic while those were set up. For fire, I do not have those numbers, but I could get that information from the fire chief.
Is that something that we can get? Do you need a motion for that?
No, you don't need a motion, but we can get a detail on what he would, what the cost of that would be.
I think we just need to know like what we're outlaying this year for that, to make sure that we're on top of it. I know that we've done it years past, but just want to make sure that we're ahead of it. And then
That's the only thing that needs fire, right?
that one should be the only one that needs fire based upon what we have here on the risk level, I believe.
Yes.
The DPW piece though, did they put that in during normal working hours and then somebody moved it, or?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so we could put the barriers in during normal worker hours, not have to pay the OT, and then if you have a volunteer to move them in place, that's
Yeah.
something that could happen?
Yep, which is exactly what we did this last year,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, and again, we totally support that because of what's been happening, and heaven forbid something should happen here, so we're good.
So since we didn't interrupt you, why don't you carry on with your presentation?
Okay, all right, so that's where we're on permits, we're gonna move on, because that was our only stumbling block. So now let's get into some fun. Okay, so our Scarecrow contest last year was widely successful. And I know if you guys drove through town, so we're wanting to do it again. The theme for Pumpkin Regatta has been announced already, so I'm free to announce it since it's on TV. It is Jurassic Park, so all scarecrows would be Jurassic Park themed. Use your imagination, right? And so with this, we're going to run it exactly like we did last year. I provided you some pictures. It is a small fundraiser, and again, those funds go towards putting the money towards fire safety. And so for $50, they get the 2 poles, and they get the sack for the face. That's the only requirement that they have to use in their scarecrow. Last year, we had 19 participants, and we pulled from Pinardville, we pulled from Greater Manchester. We had families that did it, we had businesses that did it, and it was just such a fun thing. People during the Pumpkin Regatta were taking pictures. I come down here because Main Street is responsible for making sure that the pumpkins, or that the scarecrows stay intact, and if there's anything that falls apart, we reach out to the people that did it. So I was down through town quite a bit, and just going to the Main Street office. And so I was able to see and talk to people as they're walking through Main Street, and just seeing the festive nature of the town, and just loving it, and taking selfies with all of the scarecrows. So we're just asking permission to do that again because they are on the town-owned lampposts. We are responsible for putting them up, and we are also responsible for taking them down. We do all of the registrations. It doesn't have to do anything from you guys. We just have to get the permission. So it is a contest, and last year we actually had 3 different categories. This year we're just doing first, second, third place. And so it'll be, the winner gets $100, second place gets 75, third place gets 50. Last year in each of the different categories, the reason that I'm not doing categories is because last year we had one person in one category, and so they won in that category. And so we're just doing, because the scarecrows are the scarecrows. And it doesn't matter if it's 10 people in a business that do it or one person that does it with their family. They're still, for the enjoyment of everybody in the community. So we're just basically looking for permission again, and it would be just like we did last year. Because we do have proof of concept actually happening in Goffstown, downtown. Our guess is that we will have more people because some people said, gosh, I wish I had known about that. We would have participated. And so this year, everybody will know about it, or more people will know about it. So we do expect all of the lampposts to be taken up this year. So that's that. Okay?
Speaking of lampposts.
Hmm?
Speaking of lampposts.
Speaking of lampposts, okay, so lamppost Christmas, all right, fast forward to, so we take down the scarecrows on, where's my deadline, we take it down? The weekend after Halloween, because they're up through Halloween, okay, so that first weekend in November, November 1st, the deadline to take them down is November 8th. What we found last year, because we said the day after Halloween we want them down, depending on if it was a business, they're working, and so I said, okay, so during that week, again, because we monitor it, during that week I have people scheduled where they will take them down. So all scarecrows would be off the poles by November 8th. That would be the deadline.
Can I just make a suggestion that maybe moved up to Saturday or encouraged, because the Lions Club puts up the flags for Veterans Day, and they'll likely need that weekend to do that.
Okay,
So,
good to know.
so maybe some of the stragglers
So
could get finished up.
Saturday?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, if they can get
The majority
done.
of them did, but like we had
Yep.
two
Yep.
that
What
that
date
couldn't.
are we looking at?
I think if you could, maybe set maybe by Saturday.
Saturday,
The
November
7th?
7th.
Yeah, the 7th. That way, if there are a few stragglers,
Yep.
if the Lions Club wants to start earlier, they can start earlier
Yeah.
on some of the other
I,
flags.
I think a week is appropriate there.
Yeah, oh yeah, okay, no, I'm totally fine with that. Okay, so I changed that to November 7th. Okay, so speaking of lampposts, moving forward, our Christmas was super fun. We did our normal lamppost decoration, we put the lights up, lots of great feedback on the lights. It just added to the Hallmark town when you go through the village. So the weather sometimes didn't play well, and so it took a little bit longer to put them up and a little bit longer to take them down because of the snow and the wind, but we got it done and they looked fabulous. So we, Main Street, put up the ribbon around it, the lights around it, and the candy canes, and this year we asked our community to do the wreaths, because the year before we actually did the wreaths. This last year we did something a little bit different, and so you see there were all kinds of different versions, and it was the exact same response as with the scarecrows. And so what we did is we said for $20 you get a wreath. We provided the wreath, and we provided the little wooden shape where it was a star or a square or whatever, and it was attached. And then for $20 they got this, and then they got to decorate it for whatever their interpretation of Christmas was. And you can see there's a wide variety of businesses that did it. We had the library do it, we had the YMCA did it, we had individual people do it, we had people do it with their family as a home evening project. Anyway, so hugely successful. And then we, Main Street, actually attached them when we put in all of the decorations for the lampposts. And it was the same thing. As we were putting them up, people were stopping, taking pictures with them, because they're all different. So we're just, we want to do that again, so we just want the permission to actually decorate the lampposts for the holidays.
Are there any things not allowed? Because I see writing on here.
Are there things not allowed? We say family friendly. We said family friendly, and that we ultimately have the say-so of what is family friendly, and I mean nobody pushed the barrier.
Okay. No political messages?
No, absolutely not. There were no political messaging at all, and that was in the instructions. No political messages.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so, I mean, you could see Peace for All, there is a picture of an image and stuff, but it did say no political imaging, okay? So we're looking for permission to do that. to string the lights again. And, but here's the twist on the lights, what we like to do. And this was, again, recommendation from a few people. If you went over the bridge, you saw that we also decorated the 4 pillars that are on the bridge. We have red ribbon going around it with a big red bow on it. And so that was a little bit sketchy, taking them down, which is why they stayed up a little bit later, because there was ice on the bridge and we wanted to be safe for that. So those stayed up like 2 or 3 weeks after the lampposts came down. But that brought people to ask, why don't you keep them up during the winter? Because we take them down in December, and then you've got all of January where there's snow and it's dark, and then you've got all of February where it's snow and there's dark. So our request for this is to extend at the end of December. We would take down the Christmas decoration, leave the red and the white and the lights. So all of the Christmas stuff comes out. And so it's just the red and the white and the lights on the lampposts, so that they're in the village in January, they're in the village in February. And to celebrate Valentine's, we would take that big red bow that we put on the pillars over the bridge and attach those also to the lampposts. And so that would celebrate Valentine's. And then all of that would come down at the end of February, and then we're status quo until, 4th of July, and then Pump the Regatta. So that's the ask, the additional ask.
Are these just Christmas wreaths, or could someone do a Hanukkah wreath?
Oh,
or other
absolutely.
things?
If
Okay.
whatever their Christmas is. And yes.
Okay.
And so we actually had somebody that had asked, could they do a Hanukkah one? And we said, absolutely.
Okay,
And they
good.
switched at the last minute.
Great.
And they just did one about their business
Yeah.
instead of.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's
As long
not.
as they can, I don't.
It's holiday. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Holiday. Yeah.
And we call it holiday wreath.
So, yeah, go, you got more?
No,
Allison?
that was it.
The cost calculation that you have here, how did you
Yeah.
determine that?
So last year, when I called DPW and said, what does this cost? They gave us a cost analysis, and it was about $15 maximum for the entire month of December when we asked for the initial lights to go up. And it was for the entire month, not per pole, and that was according to their calculations. And so my $45 is December, January, February, $15 a month, it would be $45.
Okay.
Okay?
And have our rates shifted since then, Derek?
We won't have an electrical contract until the fall for that. I don't see that it would change significantly.
Okay.
Even if it did 10%, you're talking, instead of 45, it'd be closer to 50.
50, 60 bucks, okay.
Right, and that's for the full 3 months.
I figured I was gonna take it out of your paycheck.
Out of his stipend?
Oh, here, you can take that one. Okay, so that's the ask for the lamp posts. Next up, you've already had a presentation put forth for this next, it's the Main Street Banner Art Project. We did a community art project where people submitted art to the Main Street program, and these are the winners. And so you'll see there's the colors, so these are the winners. So the ask right now is to actually move forward and display them. And it was going to be on the 4 lampposts that are, or 2 lampposts, excuse me. It goes 2 flags on each side in Rotary Park. So the 2 smaller lampposts in Rotary Park would have the banners on them. And there, I did not include that picture, but it's basically the lamppost, and then the flag goes this way, and there's 1 flag on this side, and there's 1 flag on this side. And the flags are 1.5 by 2, so they're this big.
Small.
Yep, they're small. They're small. But this is an opportunity, this was a community art project, and so people submitted it. And you'll see, one of these is a child that won, and so there were 4 different categories, and these are the winners of all of them. And what we'll be doing also is displaying all of the entrants, the participants, the people who entered at the Main Street office. So besides the people that actually have their flags up, they'll be able to see the additional artwork at the Main Street office. So we're just looking for permission to move forward with this project. She would like them to be on display the first week of June through mid-October. And so just after the Pumpkin Regatta, they would be taken down. Those two pieces would be taken down. Main Street would be completely responsible for getting the funding for the brackets. The brackets go around the lamppost with the two poles on either side. They do not attach to the lamppost themselves. They go around, so there's no damage at all that's being done to it, and they get tightened by clamps. And they're commercial grade, and so, you know, it can be wind and they're not going to move, and so they'll be nice and secure. We would take care of all of the printing, as well as the procurement for the poles, putting them up, as well as taking them down.
We received permission in the late summer, fall, I think, to do it. They just wanted a peek at the flags before they
Correct.
went.
What it would look like.
And these are it.
These are them. These are the final four, and this is exactly what they would look like. They would just be 1.5 by 2s. Okay? All right.
Are those all painted, all four of those?
They are watercolor and pen and
Because the fox
The
looks
fox
like a
of photo.
I know.
photograph.
Isn't
Oh,
it awesome?
I thought snack break looked like a photo, more like a picture.
Well, yeah, they both do, you're right.
Yeah.
Definitely,
And
yeah.
so those will be transferred exactly as is onto the fabric flag. And so, I mean, it'll just be this beautiful pop of color right
And it
now.
will have at the bottom, the artist's name.
Oh, I was
and
wondering about that.
Yeah,
I don't know why I didn't ask.
Cool.
yeah. Okay, and so this is something obviously that once we do this, you know, we like to have proof of concept for next year. But for this year, we're pleased with the turnout that came out for, you know, the request for art. Okay, so that's the fun asks. Now this is where I said at the beginning, this is a foundation ask. So we don't need permission to do a fundraiser, but we need permission to do the beautification project that we'd like to do. So this came about, this next thing is a brick fundraiser beautification project. So this came about as I was getting ready on the Commons for a couple of different events, and there are, because of the frost heaves, there are broken bricks, there are some that are personalized. The personalized bricks, ironically, are in good shape. It's the other bricks that are not, that are in poor shape, and we've got a safety hazard. You know, we were doing line dancing out there at New Year's Eve, and you know, some of them you have swells, by no fault of anybody's, but because of the weather. And it's a 25-year-old project, so a 20-year-old project. In 2000, Main Street actually did the first brick fundraiser, and so if y'all remember, Main Street did the Common, did in front of the town hall. There was everybody came together and put this thing. So the brick fundraiser in and of itself is not a new concept. It's been around forever. We would like to just bring it back. The town is already used to it. We have a company that I've already picked out. It's Bricks Are Us. They've sent a sample of the brick. It's super heavy. You're welcome to pass it around if you like, but you know what a brick is like. So they do all of the engraving. We handle the fundraiser portion of it, but the beautification portion that we'd like to do, number one, is to replace the broken bricks that are in the Common, and if there's any in front of Town Hall here. So we would like to do that, but we'd also like to build planter boxes, and so we can bring in the youth into the volunteer, because the youth of this community are our future, and if we can bring them into the beautification process, then they too take ownership into Goffstown. So the thought was to do planter boxes that each of the classes, and we would coordinate with the high school, that each of the classes would designate their students, so we would have a sophomore box, a junior box, a senior box, and those kids within those classes would then be responsible for planting the boxes, taking care of them, watering them, all of the, you know, the things that go along with it. And we could either put them in the Common, we could do it in the Rotary Park, we could do them along where we have the benches on Main Street, but they would be permanent foundation made with bricks that are personalized. So, you know, if a senior class wanted to have it as a senior project, they could sponsor a box through this, and then they would take care of it.
So the box is made out of bricks?
Yes, the planter box is made out of bricks. So this is a foundation project where we need permission to move forward with the next step. The next step is engineering. The next step is, you know, who's going to do all of the things. And because we have a 20-year-old history of how it was already done in the first place, we have a nice start. We have a base for it, and everything that needs to be done, except we're not doing it from scratch. We are repairing and then doing a whole new project.
Who's paying for what parts?
The brick fundraiser does.
pays for all of it.
pays for the whole thing.
The laying of the bricks, everything.
Yep.
The last time, I believe, that was all done in kind by a few different
Right. So
landscaping companies.
the last time, they did the brick fundraiser, it was a $76,000 project to do all the bricks in front of Town Hall, to do the common. This time, we're just looking at planter boxes, that's not $76,000, and replacing bricks so people can memorialize themselves here in Goffstown. But it funded, and then we had services in kind. So you've got the engineer that draws out the map, you've got the people that will actually pull up the old bricks, put in the new bricks, and, you know, so the ask is, number one, can Main Street head this project up? And find these people who would be willing to do it. And if they say, I can't do it in kind, then we find somebody else that would be willing to do it in kind, and or the brick fundraiser does that. So a portion of the money goes to making these boxes and or replacing the broken stone in the common and around.
So if the fundraiser doesn't provide enough money to facilitate everything, because some of those bricks, you know, haven't run through that area, require some flattening and stamping down as well. Like, you're gonna have some other work. You're not just pulling up
Oh,
the brick itself.
100%, yeah, no,
If it
and that
doesn't-
would all be part of it. And so here's the beauty of a brick fundraiser like this, is that this totally drives the timing of it. And so, say we only get 100 bricks the first go-round, right? And if you know, nobody wants to do it for whatever reason, then maybe we don't do the ground, we do a planter box. Right? So the beauty of this is that it can dictate the timing of the project. And the project can start and stop depending on, I mean, the last time they did this fundraiser for 2 years before they had enough to do the entire front of the town and that's why in front of Town Hall, there's not a lot of this type of a brick personalized. The personalized are over in the common and for that reason. Right, but with what we're asking to do is it can start and stop, and it can dictate what the project ultimately looks like based on the number of bricks that we've sold. So that's the ask. That's why I say it's a foundation because we know that there is more work that needs to be done to be presented to the select board. But if the answer is no, we don't even want to go for that, we'll do a fundraiser a different way, and you know, people can do planter boxes at their own home. I'll build a garden for my grandkids with all of their names on it, you know. So
My question was gonna be is if you don't have enough money to
Yep.
facilitate everything, is Main Street gonna kick in for that at all?
well, we would through grant. I mean, like we said, we just got this one grant. We have requested already several grants for beautification projects.
Okay.
And part of that is, you know, beautification for what's going to happen with the dam area. Part of that is the different beautification projects that we want. So we've actually already applied for different grants.
Okay.
And then, of course, we have sponsors for this. And when it comes to big town-wide community support like this, where your name is engraved in something and you become part of Goffstown legacy, people are more apt to do that because now they can come and say, and they can actually walk and say, hey, that's me, I had a part of that. And there's proof of concept of that because it's already been done here. And you know, and I hear people that's my brick, that's my brick, that's my brick, right? So, did that answer your question?
Allison, do you have a question?
I was actually, I love the brick on the ground idea. I'm still kind of struggling with the planters about how those will look, how big they'd be, where they'd actually end up. What if kids don't want to do it? That kind of thing I think is not worrisome, but
Yeah.
the bricks on the ground seem to me to be a no-brainer. In
Yeah.
fact, as soon as I read it, I was like, I want to get one.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the planter boxes was born because we're trying to think of how can we get kids more involved, right? And so it's more of a service project, and it doesn't have to necessarily be kids from the high school. It could be civic organizations. There's a lot of youth civic organizations. There's Boy Scouts, there's Girl Scouts, there's Boys and Girls Clubs, there's the YMCA, there's the gymnastics team, there's the cheerleading team, there's the football team, right? All of these organizations could participate in this if they wanted to. But again, until we get permission to go forward with the beautification program, you know, I can tell you that this is what the concept is. But to actually reach out to these groups and say, hey, would you like to have a planter box without permission to go forward with that, would be putting the cart before the horse. And so if we can do that, then we can say, hey, this is what the dimensions would be, this is where we could see it at, because all of that requires an engineer and somebody to draw out and feasibly make sure that, well, where in the common could we put it without affecting the sprinkler system, without affecting anything, you know, that would be the lights that are there, the electricity that's there. Where on, you know, Rotary Park could we do it, that, you know, there's benches, and so all of those things are things that would become part of this project if we can move forward with it.
So you're looking for our okay to
To go
start
forward.
it? To start it? and
Yeah.
You come back and tell us how you're doing?
Absolutely. We would come back and we'd say, now that we have permission to do it, this is what it would look like. And then even from that point, we understand that there's still another step that would need to move forward with it.
I'm with Allison, like, I like the brick idea. I think that would be nice to replace some of those broken bricks, for sure. The planner one I struggle with, because not only, like, you know, my first question was gonna be, and you answered it, which is like, is it gonna be durable? Is it gonna last? So brick's gonna last potentially a long time, assuming that it doesn't crack, no water gets in it, that sort of thing. But I really worry about the maintenance of it year over year and the consistency behind that. The benches in town, the brick, they last for a long time. There's not a maintenance thing that goes along with it. Those planters, however, have a continuous maintenance, because otherwise we just have a planter and then no plants in some cases if
Right.
somebody doesn't upkeep it. And that would be one of my concerns.
Yeah, yeah. And that's fine too. You know, I mean, a no is okay. You know, we'll just
We
come
can-
back with something different.
We can look into, we'll look into it, because the planters that we have out and about are self-watering, so we fill them up
Yeah.
once at the beginning and once in midsummer, and they stay, you know, moist all summer long. So
I think
can
we
look
would
into
need to know what they look like and where they sit,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
That's-
exactly,
that's
and that
kind
would be the next step, and
Yeah.
so, you know, using that as the self-watering, you know, we do a self-watering, and then we make the brick, you know, foundation around it, and so, you know, each year, the planter box comes out, and then we fill it up, and the flowers go in it, it self-waters all season, so that's a great idea. So that's my presentation, and so now I'm just at the recap worksheet.
So before we recap, because I'd like to go back to the pumpkin regatta
Okay.
in particular, because there were some things that we probably skipped over. One of them is that, and it goes back to cost too, and also impacts the business, is that in the past, we've typically had the town hall open, public library, I think as well, maybe, I don't remember if it's all those places, but the businesses themselves too. So one question is there any plan to have public restrooms available as part of the pumpkin regatta this year?
We always do.
Okay.
We always provide 4 porta potties.
Yep.
We pay, Main Street pays for it. We supply all the supplies.
We're up to 6 now.
Huh?
We're up to 6 now.
We're up to 6. Okay, we've got 6. And they're in different places. And on the map that we provide for people that are attending the regatta, they're clearly marked where the restrooms are. So there are a tremendous amount of resources that, and we already pay for that. And we get the tissue and the cleaning supplies. And the company that we rent them from actually comes and details them as well. So-
Is 6 enough? I guess question, and I don't know.
We don't have any standards. We can look at what other towns, I think the concern has always been sometimes when there are events in the village, because the library only has 1 bathroom, that can be, put strain on that building when it's open for regular operations.
I think it's enough if you get overnight service. That's where you get in trouble if you don't, you know, if they don't get taken care of overnight.
Yeah, I don't think it's just the overnight service. I think it's also like the fact that like people may be trying to go to the library and like, you know, you got
Oh,
a whole
of
bunch of
course,
people
yeah.
running in there. There's only 1 bathroom, and then there's also, again, I hate to say it again, default budget. I'm just gonna say it like 50 more times. Do we have a cost, like, is it cost us extra when we have the pumpkin regatta, Derek, for like cleanup that we normally do, or is it?
Quite honestly, on Saturday and Sunday, I come down. Saturday night, I come down. I make sure the bathroom's fully stocked with paper towels, toilet paper, and it's not too bad. And then facility maintenance looks at it Monday morning. So there's no cost there.
No cost because you've been doing it.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and we do the same thing throughout the day. We'll go to the porta potties. You know, we have our bag and our tissues and our gloves, and we go and you know, we do exactly the same thing, so thank you, Derek. And I know that the restaurants, the Trestle has people that go in there, the Putnam's has people go in there, you know, so all of the businesses that have restrooms available for public use, have let the people go in, and if they don't, they don't, you know, and if they say, you know, like if the pizza parlor has somebody, they need to buy a slice of pizza because it's for customers only, then, you know, people will either use that or use the porta potty that's right around the corner. So,
And if there's any stocking issues with the rest, you know, with here or library, we can help stock those, restock those.
have toilet paper will travel.
That's great. I think that hit all the ones there. Did I miss anything on that one? Just make sure.
I think so.
Those were questions, okay. All right, we're ready for recap.
So on page 14, Main Street's provided kind of a yes, no. I will say the first one, the birthday celebration on the Friday before Old Home Day, you do have that for approval in your consent agenda this evening. That was much fewer attendees anticipated, so department heads were comfortable signing off on that as presented.
Is that further here, Derek?
That's on your consent agenda,
the
so you'll be
consent agenda.
voting on that later.
So we don't need to say anything on that one, really, right now?
Correct, unless a board member plans on pulling that off the consent agenda.
No.
So should we do this in the form of votes for each one, yes or no? Is that?
Well, I think departments are looking for guidance. You have recommendations that if you're going to approve the permits as requested with road closures, that you put up some type of hardened barrier, whether it's truck, and then the question becomes, how are you going to accomplish that? For the night ones, for the weekend events, how is that going to be accomplished? Are you putting that task on departments to figure it out? Are you that kind of, you know, how are you doing that?
Well, here's another question I have, Derek. Like, if, like, we're pretty well manned, at least with emergency personnel for the Pumpkin Regatta. Like, if there's a major issue, they can get stuff moved for the Pumpkin Regatta. Is that correct?
What do you mean stuff moved?
Like the barriers and things like that? Do we
Yeah,
have-
so we do, for the last couple of pumpkin regattas, we've done a partial emergency operations center, so basically all your, they assign officers in charge from both police and fire, as well as your department heads are basically on call that weekend.
Right.
So.
So if we had barriers for the other events, we'd have to have people on call if they need to get moved, if there is a need for it.
Yes, there would have to be some kind of way to move those, yeah.
But am I correct, instead of barriers, we could use vehicles?
If
Or is that
if
not
you
an
used
option?
vehicles, what other cities and towns have used is they've used larger
Right.
dump trucks,
Yeah.
you know, weighted down. You have to have a person with the proper training and proper license, and there are OT minimums in your collective bargaining agreements to do that. And those are not salaried employees that do that.
Okay.
Now, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is it appropriate that we get like a crossing guard? Can we get a crossing guard? For any of our night events?
Yeah, I was kind of.
You mean that you hire a crossing guard?
Yeah. Or can it be a civilian with a, you know,
An orange vest.
So I would
I
say
don't
the
know
police,
by law,
the police
but-
department and the police chief did not consider that, and I would say if you were going to consider that, I would want
to get his opinion.
to get his
I would.
opinion on that before.
I don't think it's unreasonable.
I had
Okay.
considered, like in my head, thought,
Yeah.
what about that? I
Right.
mean, obviously,
We
Pumpkin
might
Regatta
insert
is so much bigger.
Yeah.
There's so many more people.
I think it's,
okay, so
Yeah.
apparently
Oh, yeah.
she just said that we used to use
But I
certain.
don't think they are,
That's the volunteer organization, right?
there's
And
not
I
a lot of
don't think
activity
they're-
over there.
Right, that's through the
Yeah,
fire
so
department.
if we
isn't
could
it?
even get some
Certain-
kind of a light, which we could get through our grant that
Right.
we have, and a crossing guard, for these evening events, because it's really to slow that traffic down coming around the bend, and, you know, signage where it shows where the detour goes, because there is still access outside of the area that we wanted to have closed.
There's only 3 events that would require barriers, right? I think.
So we've worked with, you know, police department, DPW have worked on the pumpkin regatta. You have 3 new events that are asking for road closures.
I think for Uncommon Art, we shouldn't do it. It's during the day, it's too close in order to get a quick response. I think we should say no to the road closure for that one.
So, and with all of these events, we have placed booths not in the road. For Pumpkin Regatta, you know, they are in the road.
Yeah.
But for these other events, we've been able to ship them up onto property, so they're not on the road. We were just wanting them closed for safety of people walking to and from, not to expand the event.
So I'm willing to accept the Uncommon Art without the road closure, keep it the way it was. I'm happy to make a motion for that if that's what we need for it. Do we need an motion for that, Derek?
So,
To
yeah,
get it
are we
modified?
voting on these right now? Are we?
Or you're asking for more information.
Okay.
Right now, the departments have brought up a concern with the request to close the roads. We are not comfortable signing off, and that is, you know, one of the requirements under your
And Uncommon
request.
Art's right around the corner, right?
Uncommon
August
Art is in
1st.
August 1st.
Let's go through the list. Let's go through the list once and narrow it down. And some of these, I think we'd all say yes to. I'm pretty sure. But so let's just Old Home Friday night, the movie. I'm okay with
I
that.
support that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody's okay with that. So
Yes.
that's one. Uncommon Art on the con. We still have some questions about that one.
Well, I think the question is, like, my recommendation is we not do the road closure for that one. It's during the day.
Oh,
But
okay.
otherwise,
Otherwise, I'm okay with
the
it.
permit is fine. Just skip the road closure
Is
for Uncommon.
everybody okay with that one?
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree with
so-
that as well.
Mark?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so we're good with that one.
Okay, and we're okay with that.
Yeah. Pumpkin Regatta, we're not gonna say no to the Pumpkin Regatta,
Well,
but we got some questions.
we got questions. We need to get answered.
The chief might have some better routes, or however we blocked it off last year.
So what I have marked for is what are the fire costs for that weekend? And also, how will DPW coordinate barriers for that weekend? And is there any costs for them doing that?
Correct.
Now, I would assume too, since apparently we didn't pay for fire, we've paid for the police detail, that would have been something that was in the budget from last time when
It's
they did it?
never been in the
Never,
budget.
ever been in the budget? Ever?
No.
Okay.
It's kind of been one of those that made it happen.
They've made it happen. Yeah, and it's been that way even when I ran
Bless
Main
their
Street.
heart.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I think there's a lot of things that the town does
Yeah.
that people take for granted.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so y'all will get back with us on that? Thank you.
Okay, Friday night under the lights.
I think we need to see what else we can do to
Yes.
minimize the safety concerns, but maybe not actually do a full road closure. I like
Correct.
the idea of someone, Derek, could we, I don't know which department has those like electronic signs?
That's the
Is
traffic,
it-
yeah, those are,
so-
Adam has those.
Yeah, is it
DPW.
DPW, so couldn't we put those like around the corner across from Sully's or somewhere in that vicinity, asking people to slow down, making it very clear that there is an event going on, something like that?
I think the
Just-
board could take a vote tonight to direct department heads to coordinate with Main Street alternative safety plan to allow those.
do we have any of the temporary lights with the crossing?
We do not.
We don't have any of those.
What about the lights that are used during the football games? Because there's one right outside of Shirley Park, right where I live.
So that has been a requirement that the police department has put on the high school, and the high school rents those.
Okay, is that something that we can do? Do we need permission from the select board to rent those?
I'd like to make a motion to have the department heads work with Main Street to come up with alternatives from road closures.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And I assume that's for both of your evening.
Yeah.
Both of you.
Friday
Yep,
nights and
okay.
evenings, yeah.
And so that's Parks and Rec? DPW, excuse me, that's DPW.
Yeah, well, I'll talk to the department heads and we'll
Okay.
New Year's Eve celebration.
Well, I think
It's the same
that's
as
the
yesterday.
same.
thing.
It's the road
Okay.
closure.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody has a problem with the celebrations. I think it's the road closures and how those are
Right,
handled.
yeah, 100%.
Okay, how are we with the flagpoles and decorate the flagpoles?
They're great.
Scarecrow contest.
Yeah, I think they're
that's
awesome.
great.
Everybody in favor of that one?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, that's an easy one. Decorate flagpoles with Christmas lights and wreaths.
Yep.
I think the question on that is the timing. Is everybody okay
As
with
long as they're
timing?
mindful for the Lions
Yeah.
Club of doing that, yeah, okay. So everybody's okay with that?
Yes.
Yeah, and change it to the 7th on that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Permission to leave the lights and red and white ribbons on the flagpoles through the end of February. And
Yep.
Then a Valentine heart will be put out in February for
Yep.
Valentine's
That
Day.
one.
Everybody's okay
Yeah.
with that one?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Permission to move forward on our downtown art display banners. I'm okay with that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good to
Yeah,
me.
I like
Everybody's
those.
okay?
Yep.
Okay. Permission to move forward with the concept of downtown beautification brick fundraiser project.
I think I like that one still, but I still think we want the caveat of, yes, I think we're interested in beautifying with bricks in whatever form that means, but I'm very interested in the planters and how big they're gonna be and where they're gonna be and all that stuff before we give the okay and go, yeah, just go ahead and put
On
it in.
that piece of it.
Yes.
Have the okay for the other portion of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a time frame of, like, you said it lasted 2 years, like,
Yeah, well, we'd like to get it started. We'd like to, so if we have the approval on it, because there's a period of time. I mean, obviously, bricks aren't happening this year. Nothing is getting pulled up, nothing is going down. But what ideally, you know, if we can time beautification around all of the other stuff that's happening in town, of the non-beautification piece of it, you know, I think it could all happen at the same time. But we'd like to start the brick fundraiser as soon as possible.
do you take money up front? How does that work?
The company, the company actually does it all for us, and so they order it directly through them.
And what happens if you never do it?
If we never do the brick fundraiser,
Yeah, like, you never get enough
Put the
money,
bricks in.
like, I'm asking
Oh, yeah,
because,
no,
like,
no, okay.
you know, some people have put $100 towards a mobile phone recently, and they don't get a mobile phone. I wanna know
Right.
what happens then.
then they get their brick. They get their brick,
So the brick gets sent to them,
yes.
okay?
The brick will get sent to them. And so, in the meantime, if we get the approval for this big beautification project, and, you know, they're ultimately going to go in the ground, and that's what we've decided, forget the planter boxes right now, they're going into the ground, and you buy a brick, and you buy a brick, and you buy a brick, and then that was it, right? So you have the option of, you get your brick, right? It'll get mailed to you. Otherwise, the bricks will be held, and at the time that they are actually put into the ground, and then they get sent all at once when that part of the project is ready,
Okay.
okay? So it's not for you guys to hang on to your brick and bring it down to us so that we can lay it into the ground. They get held, they get a certificate that in fact they have a brick. It shows them exactly what it looks like. That piece gets mailed to them or emailed to them electronically. And then when we're ready to put them in the ground, that all the bricks get sent.
I could live with, we'll give them permission to start as long as they come and tell us what they're gonna do when they decide what they're gonna do. So in other words, they're gonna do planters, if that's the way it goes, they gotta come in and show us what, where, et cetera, and,
Yeah, were there any liability agreements or anything like that between the two?
I would have to look and see that those are all gonna be in paper files, so we'll have to do some digging and see what we had for a memorandum of understanding between the town and Main Street.
I think before we
I have a
commit,
whole folder
Okay.
that has all of that
Oh,
in
that'd be
it.
great.
I think we
So,
wanna review that
Yep,
first before we give
absolutely.
the go-ahead on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, it had a whole name, it was a big thing. Yeah, so,
Just to make sure that we dot the i's, cross the
oh, yeah,
t's.
100%, yeah, no, I agree.
Okay.
So,
how do you want to handle the last one then? We're giving them permission, or we're not subject to review of liability?
I think you're doing a tentative permission, but you wanna flush it out a
Permission
little
for
bit
the
more.
concept.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
permission for the concept.
Okay, so
And that's
everybody's-
all we were looking for today.
Everybody's okay with that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So would the board be comfortable doing one blanket motion to approve concepts 2 through 6, with 6 being, you're approving the concept at this time, but it still needs,
Yeah,
The-
so I'll make a motion to approve 2 through 6 with adjustments on the date for November 7th as being, was that the correct one? November
Yes,
7th?
yep.
Yep.
And also for 6 to be the proof of concept and requirement to flesh out the memorandum of understanding, the MOU, and also to get more details around the planners.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
A motion, anybody
Okay.
second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Motion by Josh, second by Allison. Any further discussion or questions?
Yeah, one more statement. I'd like to adjust that as well to, no, I'm good. Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't miss something.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Off to a pumpkin regatta meeting.
Good luck.
Thank you.
You want to go next, or you want to go, let Rick go?
You want to let Rick go? He's at tab 6.
Rick, would you like to go next? Sure. Would you like to sit here for another?
Yeah, you want to stay for a while, Rick? Okay. No, you can't.
6.
So I'm here before you to ask if we can go forward with the bid request to build the pickleball court at Roy Park. All the monies for this said project are revolving fund monies and impact fee monies. So there's no other monies.
It's not coming out of the default budget, it's money that was pre-existing.
Yes, yes.
So we're not taking money from somewhere else.
Exactly,
This is money that you've already accumulated
Yes.
for things like this.
yes, yes. That's the project.
And this is to get it kicked off and actually do the RFP, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We need to get a better, true number. I mean, we have a number, but I think we gotta, this has to be put out.
And you're looking for a minimum of 3 bids, basically, correct, Rick?
As many as people will give us, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I know 2 companies that'll send it out to right away. And I'll just kind of Google some other companies and just get it out to them.
And when we
It's
close?
also posted
June
in the
3rd.
newspaper too, so.
Yes, yeah, it'll be June 3rd close.
Do you think you'll get bids back fast enough for that,
I
Rick?
have no idea, Josh. I hope so. You know?
I mean,
I
will
don't
we
know.
extend it out if you're not getting enough bids, like?
Well, I think that's, if you don't get enough, then you gotta go back at it again, yes.
Okay, so you would come back to us at that point in time, or to extend it? How would that work, Derek?
So the only danger with that is if you advertise a June 3rd opening,
Yeah,
and let's say you only get 1 bid,
right.
you're publicly opening that, and that becomes public information. So if you go either back out or a second round, that vendor is at a disadvantage. I think it's incumbent on the department that's doing this to make sure they get it out to enough qualified companies that can do this type of work. If those companies choose not to participate in the public bidding process, then you see what comes in and see if it's within Parks and Rec's budget from the revolving fund, and whether or not to award it. We do have, sometimes we have great participation. I think Adam's bid that he brought to you at the last meeting, there was quite a few. I think we had 5 or 6 for that one.
Yeah.
But sometimes for certain projects, we may only get 1 or 2 that bid on it. We do our best to get the information out. But so if the board feels for some reason that you want to do a longer process, I think the thing Rick was trying to do is he was trying to accomplish and complete this project this year.
By at least October, November, yeah.
Okay, and you feel like you could get it out to enough people by?
I will try. I will try.
I need confidence, Rick.
I'll
Like,
give you the Norwich model. I will try.
So that's, what's that, 3 weeks?
yeah, I mean, that's
2
basic.
weeks, 3 weeks to get it out. So I'll put it in the paper Wednesday. What's today? Monday.
So you'd have it in there by the 13th?
I'm thinking Wednesday, Thursday, yeah.
Yeah.
They usually get it out pretty quick.
And your other option is if the board's not comfortable with that, I would suggest moving it out 2 weeks from that.
June 15th?
Because right now, the June 3rd allows Rick to review it, to ask any questions and bring a recommendation to you on June 8th. If for some reason you don't feel that's enough time to advertise it, by adding 2 weeks, he can bring a recommendation to you on June 22nd.
I also play in there the third Wednesday of the month for the commissioners too, so.
So if you push it out to maybe June 15th, that would still allow the Parks and Rec commissioners an opportunity to review it.
Yes,
And that
Yeah.
gives us
Yes.
an additional 2
Probably a
weeks.
good idea.
yes, it would do that. You're right, Derek.
Are you okay with pushing it out today?
That's fine, yeah.
I just want to make sure you
Oh,
have
no,
enough
looking
time.
at the calendar and how it falls, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay,
6:15, okay.
I'll change that.
so we need a motion, make a motion to allow Parks and Rec's director to push this out for RFP and receive bids with the date of closing being June 15th.
Your second?
Yes, sir.
Okay, motion by Josh, second by Mark. Any other comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Rick.
Give it the Norwegian try. Still love you, Rick.
Tab 5,
Yeah, so if you go to tab 5A, the Town Administrator's Report, your first item, you have your 2026, this is your first half warrants. This is your property tax, your pilot, which is payment in lieu of taxes agreement warrant, and our LVDP water line betterment warrants.
So Derek, can you explain, I get the motion to approve the tax warrant.
Yeah.
Can you explain the next two and how those impact the first one, if at all?
So a pilot warrant, we have 3 pilot agreements. So we have 3 properties that the select board held necessary public hearings within the last 5 years to do payment in lieu of taxes. We do not send them a property tax bill based on the value of the property. These are the two solar properties. They look like one solar property because they're right next to each other. This is right on the Bedford-Goffstown town line off of 114, kind of up on the hill. And then the other one is the hydro facility at Glen Lake. For these types of projects, it provides the companies that operate those more financial surety, and it allows them to form up their financial pro forma to actually help these projects go forward. So rather than sending out a typical property tax bill, the prior select boards have entered into payment in lieu of taxes agreements with these two. And then, oh, I'm sorry.
How much longer are left on those two?
I can get an answer for you, I'm sorry. I think the solar one was a 20-year one, if I'm correct, and I believe the hydro one was a 5-year agreement, but I can get confirmation of that and report back to you.
And that number stays flat over whatever time period? It's that amount every time?
It is on the, I know it is on the solar, and that's based on the number of, how much energy they're actually producing and their megawatt. And I believe it's the same, the hydro is much shorter. I believe that was a 5-year, and I think that was fixed for all 5 years, but I'm kind of going off the cuff here.
Okay.
And then the betterment assessment in, I believe it was 2012 when there was ARA money. One of the projects that we did down there in Lynchville, Danis Park, was to put a water line in. The town received funding for that through the state of New Hampshire and paid for it all, and then they are paying over, they pay twice a year for 20 years. So we're getting near the end of that, and the actual cost for that is actually under our debt service. So that's a line under our debt service in our operating budget.
So I'm just going to ask a crazy question, probably because you put me on the
Really?
Economic Development Council now, so I'm going to just ask, why don't we these sort of things with the EDC to try to bring in business. Like right now, what I'm seeing the EDC do is not really bringing in like multiple businesses.
So this was residential.
I know this is residential, but why don't we do it more like this to try to get more businesses in?
So to bring utilities to certain locations, yeah,
Yeah.
the EDC, if you wanted to charge them with doing that, you could do that to look to different areas where that might benefit development, yes.
Because they're not, like, what they're looking at is not really benefiting development and getting more commercial businesses in.
Maybe that's a discussion for another day.
I know, but it kind of leads into it, Jim, you know what I mean?
We got three motions to vote.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2026 first half property tax warrant in the amount of $28,789,096.93.
Second.
Okay, motion by Josh, second by Mark. Any further discussions, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Make a motion to approve the 2026 first half year payment in lieu of taxes pilot warrant in the amount of $42,000.
Yep.
Motion by Josh, second by Mark. Any questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it.
I make a motion to approve the 2026 first half Betterment assessment warrant for the Lynchville-Danis Parks drinking water project in the amount of $16,124.19.
Aye.
Motion by Josh, second by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
All right, at your next tab, 5B, you have your consent agenda. Employee status reports, you have a full-time building assessing secretary position change to the full-time clerk 2. You have 2 full-time firefighters that just earned their AEMT license, so they have a rate change under the collective bargaining agreement. You have a part-time firefighter 1 paramedic resignation. And then you have 2 new hires at DPW for seasonal engineering interns. You have event permits. You have St. Anselm College Bikeathon on May 31st from 8 to noon. You have the Mountain Based Brewery Car Show on May 16th from 11 to 3 p.m. Goffstown Main Street program, what we spoke about this evening, their movie night on Friday, June 5th from 7 to 10. And the Goffstown Public Library Outdoor Skywatch on July 8th from 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. And, I'm sorry, and one more, you had the 3 proclamations that were read this evening.
Yep. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion by Josh, second by Allison. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
At your next page, you have your assessor recommendations. You have a 2025 excavation tax warrant and a 2026 intent to excavate. The assessor recommends approval. This is for map 6, lot 11-1. And then you have 4 abatements that the assessor recommends denial on.
Motion to approve the assessor's recommendations is presented this evening.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mark, second by Allison. Any comments?
Yeah, question. Is this the first time that we've gotten those sort of abatements?
Yes.
Derek?
Yes.
Is it my understanding of what I read that this is now occurring all over New Hampshire currently?
Yes.
And it's-
Other towns have received them prior to this year.
And, but prior to this year?
Yes, this is the first time we've received these.
And have they been denied in all other towns as well?
Other towns have denied them as well, yes.
Yeah. It seemed like a very canned response across all of them.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, it's a motion on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
At tab 5D, you have volunteer appointments. You have recommendations from the Economic Development Council to reappoint members Chet Bowen and Richard Bruno for 3-year terms.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Chet Bowen and Richard Bruno as regular members of the Economic Development Council with terms expiring March 31st, 2021.
Second.
Okay, motion by Josh, second by Allison. Any further comment? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
At your next 5E, you have a memo from the fire chief. The fire chief has provided you background information with their their spill trailer and some of the challenges that the fire department has had with that. They are looking to decommission that trailer and to look into other options for providing environmental protection and emergency response.
Will those other avenues require funding as well, do we know, or?
He will have to work within his current appropriation. I am not certain whether or not he would propose something that's significant in future budgets.
We don't have any other area of town that can utilize this trailer?
Not knowing the condition of it, I don't know. A few
Probably
years ago,
fair.
we did create an elections trailer, so we do have an elections trailer that's fully used. So that I don't know.
Right, we're talking about selling, is this one newer or older than the elections trailer? Is this in better shape than the elections trailer? or-
No, this is significantly older. This is a 1995
Yeah,
cargo trailer.
okay. I assume if somebody needed it, they would have raised their hand?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know, Mark, you know about this, more about this one than I do.
And I mean, Chief's not here tonight, so I can't ask him the question. I mean, I think he has appropriate vehicles to tow this trailer around. He's got the forestry trailer, he's got the 2 pickup trucks that we used to tow it around before. And I don't know the conditions of it, what the floor looks like and things like that, but I don't know, he doesn't want it anymore, he doesn't get it.
But in the notice, it even says, however, the department does not possess a utility vehicle capable of towing trailers or hauling spill equipment.
He's got vehicles that'll pull it.
That's what I was confused by that myself.
I would assume that some of those SUVs have tow hitches on them.
They all do.
That's what I mean. So what's the reason that we don't think we have a vehicle to tow it?
So do we want clarity
You
on
want to
that?
table this and ask the chief to come in and ask questions, or,
Sure, I'd be up for that.
okay, have a motion to table?
I'll make the motion that we allow the fire chief to come in and discuss the project of decommissioning the hazmat trailer, spill trailer.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Mark, second by Josh. Any further comments, questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
At tab 5F, you have a recommendation from the DPW director. This is in regards to the 2026-2028 pavement markings contract. So he has made a recommendation. He has included one note that there was one issue with how one of the low bidder bid. He did speak with that bidder, and their intention was to do 14 cents per linear feet on double yellow center lines, whereas they had only put the single one.
So can I ask a question on that one? Why did he get them to, like, that's not our job to fix their bid. Like, why did he have them fix their bid?
I think he saw an issue, and he called them up and said something doesn't look right here.
He's still no bidder.
I understand it's a low bidder, but I don't think it's our job to fix their bid. Like, I don't think we should be like, hey, it looks like it's a bad bid. Like, maybe you want to fix that. Like, would they be able to deny it if we said, hey, we accept your bid? Or would they have to honor it?
I'm not certain what our legal recourse would be. We do not require bid bonds. If you're doing a very big project, you might require a bid bond when there actually, there is some financial stake in it. But not having that in place, and somebody, I don't know how much we can hold their feet to the fire on that.
Is this the first time we get this company?
I cannot answer off the top of my head. I'm not sure who he's, let me see if I can.
That's all right, I just,
Yeah.
My other question was, I looked at all of these are all out of New Hampshire. Is there nobody in New Hampshire that does lining?
That I don't have the answer to either.
Like, did it even go to anybody in New Hampshire? I guess I'll make the same motion that Mark made. I make a motion to have the DPW director come in and give us more information about this bid.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Josh, second by Mark. Any further discussion? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
And then at tab 5G, you have a quarterly budget report for the first quarter. You've got on the first 4 pages narrative provided from each of the department head. On pages 33, 34, and 35, you have comparison showing what Q1 in 2026, 2025, and 2024 have looked like for both expenses and revenues, and then you have the detail following that. And there was a correction. I did provide you with a corrected to the revenues. I had accidentally included property taxes with the revenue report, which we typically do not do.
Did we, when we were gonna go over this, the quarterly, did we say no department heads, or were the department heads supposed to be here for this?
I don't think we gave them an answer to that, to be honest with you. I don't remember saying must be here. I could be wrong.
'Cause I don't think it's fair for you, Derek, to be here if we have questions on some of this, because you're not gonna have questions for all of it, or answers for all of it.
I guess do you want to call department heads into?
Another table motion?
Well,
Or do you want me to report back with answers, I guess?
maybe we can get answers if we have questions on it, number one, but then the next time, I think that the department heads should be here with their quarterly reviews.
Okay. If that's what the board wants.
Can I, oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
I kind of have a more general question, Derek, so maybe this is more for you. I'm assuming you put together the spreadsheet. On page 33, under section 44, Public Works,
Yes.
solid waste operations, looks like the actual year-to-date for 2026, unless I'm completely missing this, is 267,000 of 1.6 million, but the percentage says 46.3%.
Yeah, so the hard thing we had with this is, so the percentage is actually pulling in any purchase orders as well.
Okay.
So what Adam does in solid waste is he looks at our historical tipping and what we've taken for garbage and recycling and puts it at the current cost, and he creates a PO. So he kind of sets that money aside. So
Okay.
that percentage is showing up on that percentage, but it's not showing up in the actual.
Gotcha, okay. Thanks. That might mess me up on a bunch of questions. 'Cause
Yeah, and
I'm like,
that's,
why?
I tried to do it a little bit more visual this time, so
Yeah.
when you get into the detail, you have the sum of year-to-date expended as well as the encumbrance column. So I definitely would appreciate any feedback you might have about the report format, because I think it's something we haven't done much of, so we could definitely improve upon it.
Yeah, I think, because I came in and asked a few questions earlier, Derek, but like, one that kind of stuck out to me, which I think is good, at least from your perspective, like where we are in lagging on revenues that are not, us collecting taxes. I think that's a good one that we should be calling out, like, because I believe that in several areas we collect revenues.
Yeah, so I kind of made the summary of the revenues. Everything right now is tracking where we expect it. The only one that's really has me a little bit concerned is building permit revenues and our planning and zoning applications. Those are definitely, I think that's where we're probably about $60,000 less than where I'd like to see that right now.
In Q1 only.
Yeah, well, maybe 60,000 is a little bit much. I'll have to look at but that one is definitely not where it should be or where it has been in years past. And I know the planning board now has canceled, I think, 2 or 3 meetings this year due to lack of applications. So they're seeing fewer applications. We're seeing fewer big building permits or, developments come in. I know we have a couple that are pending, but we haven't actually got the applications in for them yet.
Yeah,
I'm
go
just
ahead,
gonna
Mark.
say, we have no control of what's going on, what's gonna be built, and this is a reflection of what's happened, is the way I look at it.
It's inflationary aspects, I think, one, but I think that the other thing that bothers me about this one is that there's been a lot of pushes and changes in zoning that basically have impacted local control. done at the state that was supposed to like speed up the ideas of like development. That's not happening because the market factors are basically impacting this. And I think that we're going to see more legislation this year around some of these pieces impacting local control around these that the state are having. And I think everybody should know it's not actually helping the revenues come in on building and planning. Like that's not helping. So I think that was one good call out. So I'd like to see that again, like if we're having more revenue impacts there, because it kind of gives us a predictive factor.
Yeah, the other thing, we're gonna look at those fees again, just to make sure that we're in line with what our costs are. Because again, when it comes, especially building,
Yep.
the reason we have building permit fees is to offset the cost of actually going out and doing the inspection. So we're gonna make sure that our fees are in line, and if we need to revise those, bring a recommendation back to the select board on that.
What took me a little bit of extra time, Derek, in these is that like I had to go through all the pages, which is probably why I was like, is like knowing where we stood out in key concern areas. Like, are we 50% spent? Are we 90% spent? I think those would be good call-outs. I kind of knew some of them were in certain places. Like if I go to DPW, for instance, several times Adam calls out, we're typically 20%. I think that was good to call it out, and also that we may need a transfer.
Like 3 times something.
Yeah, he did that 3 times on one page. My concern on that is where are we going to get that transfer, given that we're in a default budget right now? So I'd like to know where he's thinking that is going to come from, and a recommendation on that, because as a department head, he should be saying, I'm thinking about pulling from this line. It's not going to be as important, or we're not going to do it. Not, hey, I think we need a transfer, because if I have to make that decision, or I'm sure anybody else here, they're probably going to start saying, okay, we're going to pull more from the road. Like, so where is he thinking that's going to come from?
Okay, yeah, I know a lot of departments, one of the big unknowns as we get into November, December is we don't have diesel or gasoline in a locked contract once we get into those last 2 months of the year, so that's definitely a big unknown for all the departments right now. But yeah, I can give that feedback to the department heads of, if we're anticipating that we may need a transfer, how are we gonna do that and where's it gonna come from?
Or what are you going to stop doing?
Yep.
I think is the other one, because, salt is one that I think was in his, for instance, and like the hopper's full.
And he's got $18,000 left in his budget.
And
And that's it.
he's got 18,000 left, exactly.
I've seen him find money before, and we end up with enough salt. It was a couple of years ago, and I don't really remember, but it's,
Yeah, but I want to know what we're planning on doing ahead of time.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
what's the contingency plan? Because there's no contingency plan here, it's just we're going to have to make a transfer. And I think this is where, I think sometimes people from the outside think, oh, well, you have extra money. Something had to be given up. So what is that we had to give up?
Okay.
Yeah, that OT line, he's specifically saying it's already 80%, and we usually use 20% in Q4. That doesn't leave any for Q2 and Q3 without, where's it coming from?
Yeah, where is
Because
it
we're in
coming
a
from?
default.
And to your point, Derek, around the fuel piece, were we negotiating that again this year?
Yeah, so we have our energy consultant that we'll work with on that as well as our electricity. Yeah.
I'm highly concerned about that, given our current fuel prices that are going on. We're currently at $2.50, like we're very lucky where we're at right now. Like we're gonna end up going to 4 something or whatever if this continues, and I think that we should understand if that happens, like again, where are we gonna pull from if we have to switch? Because we're gonna have fuel in order to like plow. Police cruisers move around, fire trucks. So like, I'd like to know where everybody's thinking that we're gonna have to pull from if it has to double.
Understood.
Let's see, I had some other. Yeah, so I know that with both Parks and Rec and with DPW, we've already had a couple of unplanned events, like the radiator going out on the backhoe.
Yep.
And also Rick's Rick had a sewer issue or a septic issue?
Yeah, it is a sewer backup into its building, yeah.
So where are we pulling from on those? Because those were unexpected from, so where are those getting pulled from?
I can definitely get answers to those questions, and bring that back to you.
So I think that when those things occur in the unplanned, I think that we should have some clarity both for us and others in the town about like where we had to pull from or what we had to give up as
Okay.
part of that.
Okay.
I think Rick's got some kind of contingency fund.
We don't have any, we don't have any contingency
No
funds.
contingency
Maybe I didn't
funds.
call it the right thing, but there's some money.
I think what he may be able to do is if he had some type of planned purchase that he may be able to put off, so, we'll see.
And the library mentioned about unanticipated monthly increases from Verizon. Is that happening all throughout the town? Like,
I don't believe so. I think our mobile is,
so,
as you may recall, during the budget process, the budget committee removed, well, if we're in default, well, no, in default budget,
Wouldn't have been
the
there.
former library director did not have a town-owned cell phone.
got it.
The library board of trustees want the library director to have a town-owned cell phone. They've done that, but it was not in default budget, so. So again, I think some of this is, some people are highlighting lines, and because the library or Parks and Rec, their budget is much smaller, it stings a little bit more, whereas, it's not, some of those types of things don't.
So is there gonna be a shortfall there and then they're gonna end up coming back to us and asking for us to cover it?
She did not indicate that, because I asked her about, they're doing their parking lot in September. She didn't indicate that, she was more worried about the parking lot than she was her mobile line.
Well, I think that in those cases, because we don't control the library, but I think if we got some indication that they may need help sooner rather than later, because that would be good to know.
Okay, I can pass that along.
Can I ask you a question under debt service?
Yeah.
And this is just maybe because I don't understand, but we have a budget of 36,000 under the long-term bond interest, and we've already spent 50% of that in Q1.
Yep.
Did we not, was that because we went back to default, so we had increased the number?
No, so debt service is always the same in your default and your proposed budget, because it has been approved by the voters.
Okay.
We have a schedule that we have to follow.
Okay. So it's not evenly spread out? You
No,
could use
it's- I think-
50% in the first quarter and not,
Correct, so like our LVDP one, we have to pay at certain times. We have one that you pay twice a year, you pay the
Okay.
interest, and then you pay, like one time you pay the principal and interest, and so we have a whole schedule
it's
that we
not
have
a
to.
very monthly?
It's not a monthly
Gotcha,
thing,
Gotcha,
correct.
gotcha. Okay, that makes sense, 'cause
Yeah.
I was like, how is that possible?
Yeah,
And then can I ask you, under CIP,
yes,
fire operations, we have almost 60,000 under actual, but zero under revised budget. Can you refresh me?
so, and then if you see how you have in the encumbrances line, the PO line, you have a negative number. It's because,
I'm looking at a different one, I think.
are you on page 55?
No, I'm on 34.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, that's okay. I
Oh,
can go- I can-
34.
I can go to that.
Oh, yeah, if you go to the detail on page
Okay.
55,
Yep, it might make more sense to me.
Yeah, I had to ask about those encumbrances as well.
it's the way so we haven't switched over to 2026. We haven't what they call hard posting our system to 2026, because the auditor has to finish all their end of the year adjustments for 2025. They're
Yep.
currently meeting with finance to finish that up. So you see like a negative encumbrance, that's a prior year encumbrance, and then, so once you post, you actually start the year off in the system, all those prior year encumbrances, all those prior year POs that got carried over, the actual expense, that expense is gonna disappear, and it's gonna be categorized as a prior year. I did this budget report from, we have Excel cubes, where you can just do it's like a pivot table, but it hooks right into the database, so that it's not perfect.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
If we were gonna do this on a more regular basis, we'd actually create like a SQL report to hit the right columns in the database.
Is that something we need to do? Derek, or?
That's where, if you have feedbacks about this format, we can definitely do that. When we went to Munis 13 years ago, IT, myself, we got training on the SQL reporting, and we actually, all the budget reports, we write all those,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, I think the detail has been good. I think the upfront is pretty good. I think action items and like
Yeah.
responses are important.
Okay, yeah, we can kind
I
of,
do like how Adam said, hey, we've expended this much in the line. Like, it'd be good if others, department heads kind of really point out if they're really over.
Okay.
Like they're expecting some impacts on those. But with Adams, I would expect, here's where I'm gonna pull from in order to do this, or we have nothing to do, or we're gonna have to stop this service, or whatever.
understood.
Just so that way, we're all in a line versus kind of having an emergency response when we hit that, and they're like, hey, we need to go do this. We're all already prepped.
Yep.
Richard, do you have any questions?
Not questions. I was just gonna, actually, you've already stated some of the things that I wanted to mention. The format itself looks good, just that additional information. But it's already been said.
Can I ask another on page 42? And again, tell me if this is just making you up because I'm looking at different things.
Okay,
Under property insurance,
yeah.
we're at 97%.
Yep. So we're part of a risk pool, Primex. For Primex, for unemployment, workers' comp, and property insurance, they send us a bill in November,
Okay.
and we pay it out. So that one, we don't anticipate that changing.
So it's an annual bill instead of?
Correct. The
Okay.
only thing that we haven't paid out of property insurance, or it says the sum of available budget is $7,800. We do have a $1,000 deductible. So we don't do deductibles within the department's budgets. We keep those here. So if we have incidents that raise to that threshold, we will have the deductible.
Okay.
And I did make note of the benefits line for townwide benefits. We've got about $100,000 of savings in that line right now, but those savings could potentially disappear if we have people that are on a single or two-person plan go to a family plan all of a sudden.
Which we have a couple potential.
We have a couple potentials due to some planned births that are gonna be happening at departments, so.
And because of those planned births, may add more overtime as well.
I believe the fire chief had already included that in his calculations, but yes, that is one of the impacts.
Anybody else?
I mean, I think I'm good. I think I did all mine in the beginning.
The other one that came up to ask Derek earlier about was the postage. There was one that was actually in the negative,
Yeah.
and explain how that works.
So we charge postage to finance, and then what we do is we do a monthly true up with all the other departments.
Okay.
So I think it's just where this one actually hit. We probably hadn't, or we're maybe pulling in some true ups from other months. I'll look at that line and make sure that's.
Okay.
Because finance doesn't actually send out that many mailed items.
Personally or
Yeah,
your department. Okay.
I think one other too is, escaping me, not the postage, legal fees
Yeah.
are higher right now.
Yep, so I believe police is, I think he called his
mentioned it.
out.
Yeah.
He's had a couple of tricky items that have, so he's over that. In admin, we're further along than we normally would be. But the good news is right now we have some savings in planning and zoning legal and assessing legal. So those are other offices within admin that have legal budgets, and those are under expended. So from the admin side, that's good.
And I see that Grasmere Town Hall is tracking higher than normal.
For heating, yep,
For heating,
yep.
but also the 24/7 alarm that we had.
Yeah, so with Circuit 3 going down and getting taken out of, we're now doing monitoring, 24/7 monitoring there. That's not something that we had built into the budget, so.
Well, we had built into the budget, but it's not in the default budget, right?
No, that news of shutting down that circuit came after I had developed the admin
plan.
budget.
Okay,
So, we'll just have to find the funds elsewhere for that.
okay. Yeah. I'm good, Jim.
We're all set, everybody okay?
Yep.
Okay, so I guess we move on. Doesn't require any motions or anything, so we move on to tab 7C, the action matrix.
So you do have, under your grant section, DPW did receive word from DES that the replacement of the 2004 solid waste tractor is not eligible for that grant program due to it having a newer engine. And then the fire was also told that due to the extended timeline for procurement of the new fire truck, that is not eligible. But they are still looking at the Granite State Clean Fleets grant, and they will get news on that at the beginning of June. I did provide you with an updated action matrix outside of the packet tonight that has the list of DPW vehicles that were added this morning,
So we have more vehicles.
additional ones,
They had
yes.
a tough week, I guess.
They did put one back into service, and then the replacement for the F-550 that was destroyed by the fire is in service right now. It will come out of service when they send it for upfit for the body and plow.
So, I do appreciate DPW director now putting on which ones are being repaired in-house and which ones are not. I do have a question, is the spring repair something that we cannot do in-house? Or is this something that we don't have the tools for?
I will say that Donovan Spring does get a lot of business, so I can ask that and get an answer for you on that.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, is that something that we cannot do in-house? Especially on like F-550s, the regular pickup trucks. I can understand maybe if it's a super large vehicle, maybe we don't have the equipment for that. But I know a lot of repair shops, auto mechanics, they do spring repair in-house.
Yep, I can get an answer for you on that.
Yeah. For old business, I have some new business, Jim.
I think the only other old business, I did provide you with a revised set of goals based on your discussion at your last meeting. I apologize for getting that to you prior to the meeting. If you want to put this off until, you do have a meeting next Monday. Because of Memorial Day, you've switched around meetings, so you actually have a meeting next Monday.
I think, Derek, the one thing that came out as part of my new business, and it came up at the joint budget and select board meeting, is that specifically on the CRFs, we need to put dates probably next to all of these, which is probably why you're like, hey, we don't have dates on these, because we've kind of created goals, but no deliverable times. I think for the CRFs, we need those probably in June as well, so that way we have time to review. And unless anybody disagrees with that, in order to hit the August timeframe with the budget committee, for sure. I think instead of like the board defining all the delivery dates for any of these, I think these are ones that are, so it can be a joint ownership thing. So I think the department heads, for ones that affect them, they should be coming back when they also can give us dates on these.
Okay.
But for the CRF one in particular, I think that needs to have the June date. I did talk to Adam, or sent him an email. He said he would have his stuff in for the leasing piece for a June meeting. Jim, you were on that too, so he responded back and said he's on that.
And a follow-up to that budget and select board meeting, are we gonna send the quarterly financials to the budget committee too? Isn't that what we had kind of decided?
I sent that by email on Friday,
You
so
did?
they got that on Friday, and I also let them know that you were gonna be reviewing that tonight. When we get to the end of Q2, we'll do a similar thing. We'll do that. I will explain a little bit of a clarification that department heads will be present to answer questions that the board may have.
Excellent.
Do you know if I was included in that email? As the budget committee, or do you not necessarily?
No, I
'Cause I
think
don't re- I
I
didn't
put it
remember.
on, I thought I did both budget committee and select board,
Oh.
and normally I do a BCC,
Okay. Awesome.
so. I sent that out on Friday afternoon.
Okay.
Yeah, the select board was included on that.
Oh. Thank you.
I think that these at least represent everything that we said, unless somebody sees something different. I think if we go, Jim, maybe on the select board pieces that are ours, I think the one that probably needs to be added is like, establish a proper planning process with the budget committee, which we've started that process. That probably should be added to this list.
Yeah, that can develop after we see, run this through a few times. Anybody got anything else?
Just one I'd like to bring up, and it came up at the joint meeting as well, is whether or not we have the appetite to go down the path this year of maybe presenting town manager to the town.
Just say, what would that require? I mean, that would take some education and,
So that is that's something that, it's RSA 37. It's something that the voters, whether it be a citizen submitted petition or a select board article, if you'd like, you could direct me to provide you information on the town manager and what powers that would give to that individual, what the process would be for establishing that, and then maybe some comparison communities and what they're currently operating with. I think it would be a good start for you to maybe just do a little bit of background and understand some of the differences.
start from scratch.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
I'd like to make a motion to have Derek provide us with details around a town manager and what that process would look like, including what a warrant article would look like to put that forward.
Seconded.
Okay, motion by Josh, seconded by Richard. Any further comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
On the acceptance of the goals, Derek?
Yes.
I assume we could accept these in their current form with the addition of the department heads coming back with dates for deliverables, or would you?
Yeah, so the last time this board did goals, it was a kind of a living document.
Yeah.
And maybe once a month you'd review it. And what I typically do is have almost a status column.
Yeah.
Of, okay, what's your status, who's working on it, almost a task list. And you could even add and subtract to this. So yeah, if you want to, adopt this at this point and direct department heads to add in deliverable dates for the items that they have, you could do that. And like I said, you could, depending on what happens, you may change your priorities and goals throughout the
Absolutely.
year.
Anybody good with?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll make a motion to accept the goals as written, with the option as we move forward to make changes and adjustments as the select board sees fit, and also requesting that the department heads put delivery dates on said goals for us to review.
Second.
Okay, motion by Josh, second by Mark. Any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Was there anything else you needed on that, Derek, or are you good?
No.
So, I skipped over new business.
So one of the items I had, Jim, for new business was that discussion around the dates in June. So, do I need to make a motion to get that in June on there, Derek, or are we good
What,
What are you
in
talking
CRFs?
for the CRF delivery date?
I think as long as we do it the second meeting and not the first meeting, I think working with department heads, they might not have a plan fully fleshed out, but we can at least bring some concepts to you.
Okay. Do you need a motion to make?
No,
sure?
no, I can bring that to the
Perfect.
department.
Okay, the second item I have is one that I went back and forth with an email with Adam on today, which is, there's a couple expenses that kind of caught my eye. One of them was pallets of water that we're acquiring. And Adam asked that I bring it up here to the board, so that way we can either direct or have Adam give us a discussion around some of it. But personally, I don't think we should be buying cases of water. I think we can get coolers and save some money, probably a couple $1,000s, but even if it's a couple $1,000, it's still a couple $1,000, plus we're not adding plastic waste back to the environment by not using those bottled waters.
Do we know if there's anything in their contract that requires that we provide them water?
So there was discussion during the last contract about this specific issue. It was not included. I think the other thing is you may want to, if there's a specific thing you're concerned about, is talk to the department head. Specifically, while, yeah, there is definitely merit of considering having no water and little water or little plastic bottles, does Adam currently have the facilities at DPW to take those, to do coolers every day, to clean them out, disinfect them, those kind of things? And would there be any costs associated with those? But,
Again, do we know if we have to supply them water?
there's nothing in their contract currently.
I just go back to the fact that my husband works outside, he's a land surveyor, and when he leaves for work every morning, he brings them water. So it seemed bizarre that they were buying cases of plastic little water bottles. I'm highly concerned about the impact on the environment. Those are some of the worst things you can do. But if we still wanted to, we had mentioned, because I was involved in that email too, getting them a Goffstown water bottle, or, having a water bubble that they can fill it up with. I don't want to make more work for Adam, but, he shouldn't be cleaning out coolers. That's not what I am envisioning. And I'm not saying we shouldn't provide them water, but that just seems...
Did Adam have an opinion?
Adam asked me to do this, because I asked him to take care of it, and he asked me to do this, so I'm like, okay, well, we can direct you, or you could come up with an idea. So I think now here we are having a discussion on whether or not we're directing him, or we want to come in here and have a discussion with him. But I was kind of leaving it up to him to kind of come back with, oh yeah, that's probably a good idea, we could save money and we could do this, but that's not what happened.
I think we should direct him to come up with an idea.
And I would also ask the question to him. I realize we now have water that goes into the facility, but the water, is it safe to drink out of the,
Is it potable?
I'm sorry?
Potable, like drinkable?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, do we want to direct him? Do we want to like come up with details as to why we can't move down a particular path? Because I think it's an unneeded expense. And if we're looking for cost savings, and if I go back to his quarterly, that's an area I could pull from. I'm happy to make the motion.
I don't know what the motion should be, though. That's what I think I'm struggling with.
Would you like to hear from him?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to have the DPW director come in and explain to us
Why that's
why that's
a good...
a good use of funds, or what other direction that we can take.
What day?
Anybody second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Josh, second by Richard. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
All right, second part of that new business is the logo wear. Like, do we have a requirement in the CBA that says that all pieces of like clothing or certain pieces of clothing have to be logo wear, Derek?
There is a uniform clause in their contract, and it specifies some of the items that we will provide to them. I'm just looking at it now. There is, and we provide uniforms with a cleaning service.
Cleaning service,
Yeah.
right.
So.
And does it say that we have to replace said items every year? Certain, I think it's certain pieces.
Yeah, so there is a clause, town shall retain the right to change vendors or suppliers, however, quality and quantity of the uniform shall be maintained at current standards. So, we probably need to be careful on that of changing quality of the actual uniforms. So.
We could change vendors, but not, we shouldn't change anything else.
Yeah, you could end up with a grievance, again, depending on the quality of the uniform. I don't know what options are there, not knowing what that department or any department's spending on their, per unit. Normally, this is something that comes up during the budget process, and somebody's budget line is reduced.
Yeah, but for me, what caught my eye was the amount that we were spending for one of those hats. I went and searched for one of those hats, and I could find ones lower than what I saw there. So I would like to know if we're actually doing the due diligence to find lower cost items in a default budget, or if we're just going with what we had all the time. So is that a question? You need a direction on that, or
I can get information from department heads on what changes they've made under default budget for uniform purchases.
Yeah, if I'm looking to cut areas, that may be one of them that I'd be looking to like reduce the line or figuring out how I can shore that up.
I had another item that keeps jumping out at me, and that's cleaning services 5 days a week, every week. I don't know if that is an industry standard for everybody, or if that's
Typically in
excessive.
offices, you're gonna have at least picking up at the trash cans every night. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're cleaning everything.
But I'm looking at those bills, and they're not saying just picking up trash. So, I mean, I think the library's doing it, DPW's, everyone's doing it, and that feels like a lot to me. I don't know why.
I think the issue is that they're all independent. It's not like we necessarily have like across the board, could we lower costs by unifying the cleaning?
Maybe, right. But what if you did every other day?
Derek, is there any thoughts on that, like why we do it every day versus every other day? Do they,
Each department has always been in charge of it on their own. We do not have central purchasing here. In this building, we've had a long-time part-time employee that does 2.5 to 3 hours a night, and will work on different tasks. They'll vacuum a certain section of the building one time. They always get trash recycling, bathrooms, those kind of things. But then they've got kind of like a routine that they go about.
but each one of the departments has a different vendor, or?
So, library, police, and DPW each do their own vendor. It may be the same vendor for some of them, but they each take care of it and make arrangements for it.
Yeah.
And obviously, police has some special requirements for whatever they choose for a vendor.
Because they have sieges going on, they have all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
That one we have to be careful of.
Yep.
I'm just wondering if that's another place where we could try to cut costs.
Are you thinking more like, are there areas that the department heads could unify in some of the purchasing?
Maybe?
Is that something you guys have explored before, Derek, at all? Like unifying certain purchases? I know you don't have central purchasing.
I mean, sometimes we will work together. Everybody's got a little bit different requirements and what they have, so how in-depth has it been? It's been, I can't think of what we've done recently.
Is it that much money?
It was quite a bit. I feel like we were just signing the bill for $3,500. I don't know, don't quote me on that exact amount.
I think it's
And I
I
thought
think
I
it's-
would start writing down what
It's
I said.
$350 a week, if I remember correctly, for one of them.
$350 a week to go every night?
Well, like here, for Derek, it's basically, they're cleaning the trash cans, they're vacuuming certain areas in one area, and then they move to another.
Right.
So it's not like they clean every single room every single night. I know at DPW, one thing, if I remember, like when Pete was here, they always got him like spun up was the $5 to clean the sink. Why wasn't that actually in the? So I don't know why they're charging extra to clean the sink. Wasn't that actually part of the original deal or not? Like. So.
Yeah, maybe I'll dig into a little more and start writing it down when I see it, try to actually get to the, I mean, I know the library, I'd asked that follow-up question because it didn't even say.
The
I
library,
saw
we
the
have
bi-
no control over.
Right, but I saw the bill and still was like, I don't know what that's for. What is that covering? You know what I
Right.
mean? It wasn't, it
so-
was not clear.
So maybe that's a good question, which is,
Just
what
actually
are
try-
the cleaning services covering for each department,
Right. And how much are they?
and how much are they? So
I can get that information for you.
Okay.
I guess I'm just want to make a comment. I think what we're doing is good, and especially when it hasn't been done in a long time, but I don't want to start digging so much that we affect the morale of the employees. Just keep that in mind, that's all.
Totally agree,
Yep.
Jim. I don't think anybody wants to impact the morale of employees. In fact, what I would like us not to do is ever have to go back to the budget committee again where they're going through $300 line items and then removing those, from like, I don't know, our police department or whatever. Like, I'd rather just be, like, everybody should know that we look at this weekly and look at expenses all the time and ask questions every single week around certain expenses. Like, this is not something that we just go, oh yeah, it's great, have a nice day, and we're rubber stamping it. Nobody's rubber stamping this.
Okay, all right. Okay, so, I don't see anyone here for public comment, so we'll open for public comment and close for public comment. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of our public session this evening. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we go into non-public session, RSA 91A:3, 2, for D, legal. Anything else, just legal?
That's all that I have.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mark, second by Richard. This roll call?
Yep. Yes.
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 Yes.